And welcome back. My first guest is Martin Cox, Superintendent of the Clarkstown Central School District. Welcome, Mr. Cox.
Thanks, George, for having me.
So, before we really kind of delve into some of the things that you're doing in the district, for the benefit of our residents, maybe you could explain a little bit about your background, how you became a school superintendent, what brought you to Clarkstown.
Sure. So it certainly wasn't the traditional path towards the superintendency. In fact, my background as an undergraduate in college was in radio, TV broadcasting. My dream was to become a major league radio play-by-play announcer. And I went out to California, actually worked for a farm club of the California Angels, a Class A team. I wasn't on the radio, I was the PA announcer. But while I was in California, I worked at a TV studio as a weekend sports anchor, and so I had two different part-time jobs, and I was looking for a third to try to add them all up to become a full-time position. There happened to be a Catholic grammar school, St. Rose School, right behind the parking lot of the TV station in Santa Rosa, California, and I went in there one day and asked the principal if she needed any substitute teachers, and she said, "When can you start?" So the next day, my first position in the field of education was as a playground monitor at St. Rose School in Santa Rosa, and I really enjoyed the position. I continued my career in sports broadcasting. I was a weekend anchor at an NBC affiliate station in El Paso, Texas, but I remembered that opportunity of substitute teaching in St. Rose and how it was really a rewarding experience to make an impact on students. And probably when I was in my mid-20s, I decided to have a career change. I went back to school, received my certificate in elementary education. I taught 13 years in the Rochester area. One of the most rewarding experiences was as a teacher in the Pittsford Central School District. It's a suburb of Rochester. They really provided a wonderful professional development opportunities. Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, for instance. So I really enjoyed that position. And then fast forwarding to sitting here with you today, I decided to try to make an impact beyond the classroom. And I went to school to receive my Certificate of Advanced Studies. And from there became a principal. I had a few different principalships. It's interesting, during your travels as an educator, you cross paths with people who really inspire you. And one such person was an interim superintendent from Central New York. He had a lot of years of experience in the field of education, and we would be sitting at these meetings, and he would say, when you become a superintendent, I'd look around, are you talking to me? I didn't even know what a superintendent did, right? Yeah. And so he goes, yes, I am. So he really encouraged me and inspired me, and then I kind of shifted as a principal and tried to really learn more about the full operation of a school district, and applied in different places, and became a school superintendent in the Fillmore Central School District. It's in the southern tier of New York State, just south of Letchworth State Park, one of the most beautiful state parks in the state. It's like the Grand Canyon of the East, they call it. And from there I went to SOTUS, which is closer to my hometown of Rochester, New York, and learned about the position in Clarkstown. I was really intrigued. I knew a lot about Clarkstown. Superintendents read about districts throughout the state. I knew it was a very high-performing school district with regard to academics and offerings for students. And I was also intrigued by the fact that there were 9 elementary schools in the district. So I thought perhaps drawing from my experiences as an elementary school teacher as well as an elementary principal that I could combine that while pursuing the position here in Clarkstown. And I've really been excited with the opportunities that we've had since I've come to the school district.
And how many years are you with the Clarkstown Central School District now?
This is, I'll be completing my 2nd year at the end of June.
It's and you certainly have kind of come in almost like a whirlwind with a number of initiatives that you've kind of brought to the fore. And I think really the other thing that I've heard from a lot of the staff and faculty that I've had interactions with, really a very stepped up communication between yourself and with the staff and with the families, which I think is really a testament to you, your communication style. But maybe you could talk just a little bit about, I know we want to touch on school safety and some of the things that we're doing with jointly to the extent that we can with the town, with the police department, with the school district. But for the benefit of our viewers, how big is the Clarkstown School District?
We have just over 8,400 students in 13 schools.
Right. And maybe we could talk just a little bit about the some of the initiatives that you're focusing in on as the superintendent, and then we'll leave a little bit of time to talk about safety.
Sure. So when I came here in 2016 during the summer of that year, I spent a lot of time in the first 3 to 5 months doing one-on-one interviews or small group interviews with numerous stakeholders throughout the school and the community at large. And the reason for that was to seek to understand before being understood, to try to figure out what is it that the people in Clarkstown value about the school and the community. And so from that, eventually, and I did tell people this, you know, Marty, what do you intend to do with that? What is your plan? And my response was, the plan is we'll create the plan together, because there needs to be ownership. People need to have what I call the opportunity to create something together. So what we did, based on all of the input that I had, is I worked with my administrators, and together with the administrators, the principals, the board, and other stakeholders throughout the community, we decided what are the goals that we want to look at. The goals that were in place were very fine goals, but society changes daily, as we know, with many changes with technology, for instance. So when we looked at the goals, we realized they hadn't been revised in over 7 years, so this would be a good time to do that. So long story short, Susan Yam, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, used David Cooperwriter's appreciative inquiry model, designing, dreaming, creating your destiny. So we have 4 goals. They're very clear-cut: academics, safety, social, emotional, and capacity building. So whatever it is that we're doing, and we're in the midst of the budget season, in fact we have a budget input meeting tonight, all of the information that we're sharing and talking about should link to those 4 goals. And the social emotional component is very, very important, as it ties to what I call the key antecedent to decisions nationwide, sadly, that have been made in some of these school shootings. We have to be careful to make sure that the programs we are offering are the programs we want, that they're good programs, and that we have the appropriate staffing to support the needs of all students. Very excited about the academic work that's going on. Michelle Zernoni is our K-12 ELA and Social Studies Coordinator, and Teachers College writing and now reading is really taking hold in the elementary schools and also into the middle school. When I'm in the schools, I was just at Bardonia 2 days ago, and I'm in the hallway with the interim principal, Eileen Casey, and I was stopping and looking at the stories on the wall that the kids had written. Very, very strong program, and the results we're seeing and that have been shared by Michelle and teachers at board meetings is an example of that. We also have work being done in terms of providing professional development for the co-teaching process in our schools. There hasn't been PD in Clarkstown in that area for some years, so we realized we need to look at that, and we've increased the number of teachers to create more partnerships with the co-taught process to meet the needs of all students. I'm excited about the work of our committees, particularly the Facilities Improvement Committee. It's comprised of John Lenave, Assistant Superintendent for Business, as well as 3 board members and our Facilities Director, Anthony Valenti. We've been fortunate, not all districts are, but we've been fortunate at the end of the school year to put some money in different areas of reserves. The capital reserves have allowed us to work on some things that are in need of repair throughout the district. So those are all good things. Sometimes I feel like we might have, you mentioned the initiatives, too many initiatives. I have this big drawing on a sheet of an easel paper of a funnel, and it has the circles within the funnel, and at the wide part of the funnel are the initiatives we're just starting to look at. And at the narrow part, it represents these initiatives are taking hold, right? And so a short story, we had Lucy West, a consultant, come to the school district. She's been here 2 times. She'll be here 3 more times. A highly regarded, respected educator, consultant, and author out of New York City who focuses on content coaching. And her big thing is the constructivist approach to teaching and learning. And she was eating lunch. I brought the easel in, right? Excuse me, the paper from the easel. And she said, "What's this?" And I said, "I want to show this to you. These are the initiatives we have going on in the district. What do you think?" And she looked at them and said to me, "You have a lot going on. I think you might need to slow down." So I share that because we have to be careful, and I shared that with the board actually when we presented all of these last September, our game plan for all the reports during the year. And John LeNave has this visual. It's called the trough of disillusionment, which means people's cheese will be moved when you create change, and you have to be careful. I told the board to not overtax the system. The teachers they need time, they need pacing to be a part of the initiatives, to have ownership, and to move it forward. So. I'll make a running analogy with the initiatives. We can't treat it as a 5K sprint. We need to treat it as a marathon and adjust our pace.
I think that's. But what you're describing is really I think the enthusiasm and also the excitement that comes with the change in leadership, and I can equate kind of that analogy or that story that you outlined to kind of what my first 2 years. I'm now into my 2nd term as town supervisor, but it was almost hard to message some of the things that we're doing through my first 2 years because we did so much. We cut taxes. We really reshaped how our whole departments were within the town. We changed our zoning code. We brought on new building initiatives, new capital projects. I mean, just you kind of went through the list, and I know when I was running for re-election, you want to talk about the things that you're doing and the things that you've done, and there were so many things that we didn't have the ability. We had to kind of say, okay, what's our top 3? Because it was just so much that we had just kind of clicked through with a wholesale change in our zoning code, with our code enforcement, with changes within some of the departments within town hall, and of course, just the fact that we cut taxes for the first time ever in the town.
It's fantastic.
And we're able to extend services at the same time as we did that. So, and we're not stopping yet, as I know you won't either. I mean, I've gotten to know you a little bit through these past couple of years, and you certainly are a very energetic leader and forceful leader. So, and who builds consensus around them, which is I think very key. We don't have a lot of time left, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't really talk about kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the room, school safety. And I know that, as you know, there are things that we can speak about and things that we really can't speak about because we don't want to kind of give out the secret sauce, if you will, about some of the partnership between the Clarkstown Police Department, the town of Clarkstown, and the school district. But I just to assure our viewers that there's been an awful lot of work that's taken place since this last tragedy in the assault and the murders down in Florida, in Parkland. We've had several meetings back and forth. All the school superintendents were in just yesterday in my office with the police department with their safety teams to kind of talk about lessons learned, and I know there's a lot of things that they're kind of in process right now. But maybe you could speak a little bit to the school safety issue and again towards the partnership with the police department.
Absolutely. So the first thing I'll say is certainly our empathy and our sadness, our heart's ache for the victims in Florida, a senseless tragedy, and all of the innocent victims of school shootings that have occurred in our nation in recent years. What I want to say is prior to the incident in Florida, we have felt very strong about what we have in place with our safety measures. Our partnership with the police department is a very strong partnership. Our safety team and the work with Lieutenant Detective Glenn Dietrich working on safety cards in partnership with John LeNave and Maureen Sullivan, our Director of Business Services, sharing that information with teachers in the event of a situation and what would we do, lockdowns, procedures, which we can't give all of that out to the public because if somebody has bad intentions, certainly we can't give away our game plan. But what I can tell you is since the Parkland incident, we have reflected, and we've done it in multiple ways. My administrative team has talked about how do we feel about what we have in place? Is there something we could do different? We have had meetings in which our safety team has partnered with the security people in the district at the elementary level and at the secondary level, talking about the measures that we have in place, how are we doing, what are some things we can do different. When we came back from the break, I believe the date was February 26. We were meeting, of course, with you and with Chief McCullough as well as Detective Dietrich, talking about our measures that we have in place, what are some things we might be considering. So there's been a lot of talk, there's been a lot of reflecting, a lot of planning. Specifically, we're right in the meat of the budget season. And so we have some things as administrators that we are interested in, and it's not just protecting the physical plant of the school itself, but it's talking about ways in which we can enhance either through programs and or personnel the social emotional component. You have to look at these tragedies and realize that for the most part they were either students or former students who committed these crimes. And most of the stories you hear about those school shootings were these were students who had anxiety, they were either depressed, there were multiple issues that tied to mental health and the social emotional component. So that said, we have looked very carefully to make sure that we want to have in place what we need to have in place or enhance in order to be very, very strong, not only with the protection of the buildings, but the supports, the services for students with the social emotional component. That would be like the root cause to the matter, and so we're cognizant of that. It's a goal, as I mentioned earlier, and we're looking at that, and we're getting very, very close. We'll be talking to the board. The board will certainly, of course, be partnering with us as we share with them our ideas and find synergy to determine what exactly do we need to do going forward. It's no different than with programs, curriculum, and instruction. You want to do better today than you did the day before. So with safety and with the social emotional component, how can we do better today than the day before? And we want to share what we've been doing while also getting feedback and thoughts from the parents and the community. So we've set up some forums on Monday the 19th. The secondary parents will come, that's Festa North and South parents, to Festa to listen to our presentation and also to share at that presentation. And then on the 26th, we have the elementary parents coming, same location, Festa Middle School, 7:30 to 9. And so, you know, that's about being transparent and getting that input. Someone else within the community might have something that could be very, very helpful that perhaps we haven't thought of. So
Right.
We want to be open and we want to listen.
Right, and just the partnership between all the school districts. It was refreshing to see the three superintendents together from Nanuet, from Nyack, and from Clarkstown, who all have facilities within our town and students within our town, in the same room with myself, with our police department leadership, to really kind of reflect and review and see how we can all improve and learn from each other. The town from the schools, and the schools from the town, and the schools from one another. And I think that's a credit to each of the superintendents that we have, some very fine superintendents here in our region, but certainly here in our town. We're blessed to have someone such as yourself leading Clarkstown, our largest district in our town, you know, and with these renewed efforts, I think we'll see some definite improvement. as we kind of reflect on lessons learned from Parkland and what we're doing, what works, and what can work even better, I think that we'll all be better off for it. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh, I want to thank you, George, for your support and for having me today. I really appreciate the partnership with you and your position as supervisor, as well as our partnership with the Clarkstown Police Department. It's a strong partnership. It's very healthy, and we really appreciate everything that we do together. And in partnership, I feel that we can do great things for students and the school community at large.
Great. Well, again, thank you for being my guest. It's about all the time for this segment. Coming up next is Thomas Achman, United States Army veteran. Stay tuned.